please make sure that they'll, hopefully, I know on their slides it's going to have their little stories and stuff, so you should gather that information from them. All right, so I'll turn it over. Owen, since he was the main contact.
Okay. Hey guys, my name is Owen, and this is Shane and Jack, and we are all second-year medical students at Medical College of Wisconsin, Central Wisconsin. It's Central Wisconsin because Medical College of Wisconsin has 3 campuses. The main one based in Milwaukee, that's the bigger one, and then as of a few years ago, 2 regional campuses, one in Wausau, one in Green Bay. And we're here today to talk to you a little bit about our journeys to getting to medical school, so through high school and undergrad, and things we learned along the way. And if anybody has any questions at any times, feel free to stop us, and then at the end we can recap, etc.
You can ask anything too.
Yeah.
For me, I don't care what you ask.
Okay, so I'll just give you a little bit about my backstory. I'm from River Lake, Wisconsin, which isn't too far from here. I graduated high school in 2010. Didn't exactly know what I wanted to do in high school, which is totally fine. And if you do know, that's great. If you don't, that's also great. College is a great time to experience a whole bunch of different career avenues, things like that. But high school is really not a bad time to start thinking about if you like engines, if you like medicine, if you like computers, things like that. But a couple takeaways from my high school experience: try and get good grades, that's great. AP credits are fantastic, and they'll save you probably tens of thousands of dollars in college. So take AP classes if you want / can, that's huge. Do a bunch of extracurriculars, expand your repertoire and application, things like that. Went to college at Madison. Biology was my undergrad major, and post-college I actually thought about being a dentist for a while, but then I changed my mind, took a couple of years off. I lived in Colorado and did a bunch of skiing and did research at University of Colorado, and then I moved into med school. So I did a little different route than Shane, for example, who went straight from undergrad into medical school. These are all different ways, and each has their pros, each has their cons. But yeah, that's a little bit about my story.
All right. For me, I'm Shane. I'm from Rhinelander, Wisconsin. So, I'm Hodak. And in high school, I also had no clue. I wouldn't say no clue. I wanted to be a calculus teacher. That was kind of first what I wanted to do. I loved math. And I guess kind of the repeating theme for me is like, you don't have to have it figured out, just make sure you're working hard with whatever you're doing. So like when I wanted to be a calc teacher, or just like the math field, calc engineering, whatever, I also took all the AP classes I could in that field. So I finished calculus in high school, and then took like AP chemistry because I figured engineering might factor in there. Around junior year, I kind of started to like physical therapy, just being an athlete and having like sprains and stuff. I liked physical therapy, thought it was cool. So then I started taking AP Bio, AP Chem, like I took everything in the science field, all the AP classes they had to offer. But in general in high school, like, yeah, I worked hard while I was in class and did homework or whatever, but I didn't stress much, and I would really encourage you guys not to either. High school is a fun time. Enjoy it, enjoy your prom, enjoy your sports, like focus on those things. As long as you take care of business, the future will take care of itself. Don't stress too much about that. In high school, like I volunteered with some local basketball camps, mentored some middle schoolers, nothing crazy. Focused on basketball though because I wanted to get a scholarship for college. That was my way of paying for it. And so that's what I spent like my summers. I didn't really get summer jobs. I mostly just like was in the gym every day working on basketball. And ended up getting a scholarship to college, so that worked out. I didn't shadow whatsoever, like some people in high school. Maybe you guys are already like shadowing doctors or whatever, trying to figure out what you want to do, doctors, nurses, I don't know. I didn't shadow anybody ever in high school. But big thing is I took all the AP classes, went into college with I think 25 credits, so that's like almost a full year of school, and that helps a lot. So playing sports that allowed me to like have an easier schedule throughout college rather than having to like take 18 credits a semester. I was taking like 13, 14 so that basketball wasn't too hard to balance with school. So that'd be my recommendation is AP classes, I'd agree with Owen on that, and then don't stress too much in high school. As far as college, so the best scholarship offer I got was at a school called Bemidji State University in Minnesota. It is not an academic school. It's not a super smart school. And there were a few worries about that, wanting to go like on to, I was still thinking physical therapy at the time, so I majored in chemistry and also did biochemistry. Going to a school like that, it's not going to be you're not going to be handed a great education. You kind of got to go get it yourself. So going to a little school was actually ended up being really good for me because I was able to stand out. I don't know if I could really speak on like UWSP or like Stout or like their academic programs, but it's not. I guess Madison's probably considered a higher institution or like Ivy League, obviously. Bemidji wasn't anything like that. But because I was like worked hard, got in the lab extra with teachers and stuff, I was able to stand out and like get good letters of recommendation when I needed them. And then in college, basketball filled a lot of my time. Basketball and studying was pretty much it. Volunteered like at my church. And then junior year, again a point of you don't have to have it all figured out. Junior year, so like 3 years ago, I decided I liked medicine and wanted to try it. So like, I decided that and shadowed a doctor for like a week straight and was like, yep, I really like this, let's do it. So then studied for like the MCAT's, the exam you gotta take to get into med school. Studied for like 6 months for that, switched my schedules that senior year. I took a bunch of classes to qualify for medicine, for medical school, and then applied. And like Owen said, I got in the first year. So a lot of people either choose to take gap years or feel like they have to improve their application. I was one where like I kind of did need to for my application. I only got in for this one school actually. I'll admit that this was the one school I got into, and the reason was like having basketball and focusing on school. I wasn't able to like do a lot of research projects. Over the summer I was working out. I wasn't able to like work in a hospital as like a phlebotomist or like Jack will probably tell you. I forget what you did. Something with that.
As a
paramedics
ER
or
tech, yeah.
yeah, he worked in an emergency room. I didn't have any of that on my application. My application like literally said I shadowed a doctor for 40 hours and I want to be a doctor. And like that's not, that's not a whole lot of proof that you know what you're getting into, which is fair. So I was close to needing another year, and that's fine if you do need that. So yeah, applied, got in, straight to med school. And then last thing there written is the random advice. Something I like to, if I ever talk to like high schoolers or just younger people in general, is like don't assume things will magically change at a certain age. I think that was something that I kind of believed is people were like, oh, you'll find yourself in college or you'll learn all about yourself, and I just kind of assumed things would suddenly change at some age, and they don't. Like if you're a hard worker at 16, you'll probably be a hard worker at 19 and a hard worker at 22 and stuff like that. Like if you're social or social person, someone likes to have fun at 17, that'll probably stay the same. Don't assume you can, I don't know, skate by now and then things will just change later. Like I said, have fun and stuff, but understand that habits are formed. Play hard. Sure, work hard, play hard, but like habits are formed at a young age, and things don't just magically change because you're 18 and all of a sudden you're a really mature person. So life gets harder. Yeah, it does, and life will shape you, but that's my advice.
Shane had to deal with some challenges when he came down here to Wausau, took on the Warriors the whole day, so he sort of got beat up by the Warriors.
Actually, no, I never lost.
Oh, you did? I thought you said you hated it because...
I hate Wausau West because I lost in sectionals.
Oh, the school. I thought the school
No, we
beat
beat you guys by like 20.
Oh, I thought you... Darn it, took it back. Take it off. Come on, Richie, coach those basketball players up more.
Like I said before, my name's Jack. I don't really do a PowerPoint. I don't like PowerPoints. We spend, I don't know about you guys probably do too, but we spend all day looking at PowerPoints, so in my free time I don't like to look at PowerPoints, so I'm just going to go off the cuff here a little bit. I'm going to focus mostly on the high school to college transitions, since that's what you guys care about. And college to med school is obviously different, and I'll be honest with you, I don't even know the transition to residency when that comes in a couple of years. I haven't figured that out yet. But I'm from Watertown, Wisconsin. It's a couple hours south of here. When I was in high school, I pretty much knew for certain I didn't like school that much. I didn't really want to stick with it. I like sports, I did that. And then I was planning on enlisting in the Army right out of high school. Didn't really see a whole lot more school coming my way, which obviously I was wrong since I'm here now. And I, told my parents that I was just gonna enlist, and then they said, well, we really want you to go to college, and talked to me about ROTC, which I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's a program in college, and I'm not a recruiter or anything, it's just the route that I went through. And you can apply for a scholarship in high school, or you can join while you're in college, and I applied for the scholarship while I was in high school, and made a deal with them. If I get the scholarship, I'll go to college. If I don't, I'll enlist. I ended up getting it, so I went to St. Norbert College, which is in Green Bay, or right around there. And then that's when I took science classes, because it was really the only thing I liked was in high school for school, and ended up liking that quite a bit. And then I volunteered at a clinic for people without insurance when I was home for the holidays, and that's where I kind of decided that I liked medicine. That was something that I wanted to go into. Big takeaway from just going from high school to college and through my time in college is to keep as many doors open as you can while you're going through it. One for college is I wasn't planning on going into medicine even when I got to college initially. I was just going to go in the Army, afterwards. And you don't need great grades in college to be in the Army afterwards. So I kind of dug myself a hole the first 2 years, which, it was a challenge to get over. There are ways you could do it, but it's a lot easier just to work consistently hard the whole time than to have to make up for it later on. And then that kind of, going back to high school, that's kind of an important thought for it too, where even though I wasn't planning on going to college, I made sure to at least keep up with my grades somewhat, because it's one of those things that if you get, if you don't do the things that'll get you into college or other areas of your life while you're in high school, you're really shutting down those options for you. And you don't have to know what you want to do. I didn't know till later with just like some of these guys, but keeping those doors open with good grades or, some volunteer hours or something like that is really important. Even if, you end up later on not needing them, you would rather have them than to get to a point where like, well, I wish I would have done that, and now I have limited options of what I can do later in life. Any questions?
For any of us through.
I guess to add on just to the Army's paying for my med school too now, so it is an option. There are other ways to do it with scholarships, but it's worked out nice for me that I haven't had to pay any loans going through. I just have to pay it back later.
There we go.
Yeah. There's more. So, just put a couple things on here. Why would you potentially want to become a doctor? I know we all see the TV shows about being doctors, and that's really not the reality of it, I guess. Sure, there's some excitement and some drama, but I think if you're seriously considering medicine, try and talk to as many people about it as you can, get your resources on it, because you want to know that that's what you want to do if you're going to apply for med school and put the time forth and the effort. And if you get to med school, to go through med school. So we just put a few pros, a few cons about being a doctor, and anybody can have different reasons for it here, but obviously being a doctor is a great job, financially, job security, respect-wise. People are going to know who you are, and they're going to trust your judgment, and you're going to help guide a lot of people through difficult parts of their lives or challenging parts of their lives. And it's not always the easiest job, but the reason that I think almost all of us go into medicine is because it's going to be really rewarding, because it's hard to find value. Money has a value in everything, but having those relationships with your patients is something that's kind of priceless to some degree. Definitely some cons about being a doctor. It's a stressful job. In certain cases, you're dealing with life and death. It takes a lot of time. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school usually, and then residency after that, which is usually 3 to 5 years. So it definitely takes a lot of time. For most people, it takes a lot of money, a lot of debt. Jack, he is going through the military, so they're paying for his med school, which is great. But I know you're a military doctor then for,
Yeah, so all the time I've accrued for just going to school with them paying me and paying for it is like 14 years that I'll be serving once I'm done with medical school.
you have to have delayed gratitude to go to medical school, because if you choose to go to college and do a 4-year degree, then you get a job after that, you start getting a paycheck. It's nice. I did it for a couple of years, and you buy stuff and you go on trips with your friends, etc. But once you're in med school, you really don't have that much free income, and the people you went to college with are getting married, buying houses. Not that you can't get married, Shane's married, but
They're married sophomore year of college.
they're having a little more financial freedom than you will, so you have to have good delayed gratitude and realize the goal at the end of the tunnel. Just a few personality traits of people who make good doctors. You gotta be really hardworking. You have to have empathy for patients who you're gonna be working with, who a lot of times are really gonna appreciate you, and sometimes they won't appreciate you, so you have to see beyond that. And then I just wrote a few other ones on here. A big one for me is a love of learning. I really love learning about science and the human body. And the human body, in my mind, is the most complicated, perfect machine on Earth. And as you learn more about it, you find that out. But that's what it is for me. You guys have any other additions for pros or cons?
So I think a big thing that people ask you and that you may be thinking when you're going through this is like, well, do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a nurse? Like there's lots of other areas of healthcare where you can make a difference. You can do a lot of these things where you can help people, have a respected career, make good money. And to not take away from any of those, I mean, those are all really good options. I was a CNA during undergrad, so then I worked on an oncology floor, which was a good experience. I was the only guy on the floor. There's a lot of lifting patients, that's what it ended up being. But I really liked it, and then I worked in an emergency room for a little bit as a ER tech, which I was able to do just through my CNA license. But what drew me to end up being, wanting to be a doctor more so than like a nurse or a lab tech or to continue being a CNA was just kind of the leadership aspect of it. When you're a doctor, you're working on part of a team, which is something I like doing. Which, I mean, we all do, obviously, because we're here and because we, did sports going through and from the Army. And because, you have your doctor, and then you got nurses, and you have your lab techs, and you're all working together with the ultimate goal to help the patient. But I really like being kind of more towards the, decision making of that part of the pyramid rather than, getting told what to do all the time, which sounds funny coming from someone in the Army, but there is a lot of autonomy as a doctor. And then, the con to that, though, is that if you are at the top of the chain and you are able to make all these decisions, it's great when things are going well, but when things go wrong, you're the one that gets looked at for those problems. So it is a give and a take, but that's what drew me to it.
I don't know much more. I guess one other personality trait of doctors, you gotta like people. In general, surgeons don't really have to talk to patients while they're awake a whole lot, but most fields in medicine, you gotta like people and really enjoy communicating, talking to people. Communication is a huge part of the job. And when we go out, so we already go out and work with or shadow doctors, however you wanna say it. Being able to communicate with people is a huge deal. And if you struggle with that, medicine's gonna be a tough field.
Even in the OR, if you don't have to talk to your patients much, you're still in there with 4 other people and you're all working together, so you still have to talk to them. So it's not a field you can run to if you don't like that.
Oh gosh, yeah. So this is just a general slide for you guys to look at and read kind of while we're yapping on over here, but being a doctor is an extremely, it offers a huge variety of career options. You hear the word doctor in high school, or at least I did. I'm like, oh, they see patients, they prescribe meds, maybe they do surgery. And that was about it. That was about what I thought for what doctors do. But in reality, there's 120 specialties and subspecialties, so different specific avenues that you can take, whether you like inpatient medicine, treating sick people in the hospital, if you want to be a family practitioner and you treat them, and a clinic outside, if you want to do anesthesiology, put people to sleep. if you want to do emergency medicine, work in the ER. And that's just if you do a medically related specialty. If you really, for whatever reason, don't want to do it, you can become a medical school faculty. You can teach people, or you can decide to do research at a larger university or a school. There's just kind of a never-ending avenue of options, which makes medicine a really unique career, because if you get an accounting degree, which is great and all, then you're probably going to be an accountant for the rest of your life. But with medicine, you can do a whole bunch of different specialty, unique avenues that other careers don't offer.
Before we go too far, how many of you are actually thinking like medical school, possibly? Like, can you raise your hand if you're actually considering medical school? Okay, so fair amount.
Yeah.
I just wondered if this is more like just healthcare in general, or
This
who's allowed that.
Yeah, this is just kind of reiterating what Jack mentioned too, is there are so many different healthcare paths that you can choose to do, and they all have unique benefits or unique niches. Some of these require 4 years of post-undergraduate school, some of them are 2-year programs. There's just a whole variety, so we're here talking today about medicine, and you guys hear from a bunch of different practitioners of different types of different jobs in healthcare, but just keep that in mind too, and there's a whole variety of options.
My wife's actually a nurse too, so I have like direct contact with someone who's a different position in the field. And a difference I'd say between them, like, so she finished college 2 years ago when I went into med school, and she's been working as a nurse for 2 years. There's some awesome parts of that, like she's bringing in a paycheck, which, like Owen mentioned earlier, that's a big deal. Like when you're 21, 22, you want to start having some money. And if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have any. But like if you just continue in medical school, there's, like you were saying, the delayed gratification. You're not getting anything until residency. So most medical schools are 4 years long. So you're 22, and then you go to residency, and they work you on...
6.
What's that?
22-week regimen.
Oh, okay, yeah. Whenever you start medical school, so 22 through 26 years old, I think the average age is 25 now for people starting medical school.
Something like that.
So you're probably 28, 29 by the time you get into residency. Residency, you can work about 70, 80 hours a week on average, with a few like 110-hour weeks thrown in there. And you get paid a yearly salary. It's not hourly pay. You get paid about $50,000 to $60,000. So your work, I forget what that comes down to hourly. It's like $10.40 an hour or something like that. So as a 30-year-old who spent 8 years in school and is now working 80 hours a week or so, you're earning $10 an hour until, like we said, 3 years, 4 years long. So about 32 years old is when you're finally gonna, like, in a way, start your life and like start like buying your house and feeling like you can afford other things. The downside, I would say, so like speaking of my wife being a nurse now, there's a limit to what she knows and the decisions she can make, and that's something that frustrates her a little bit. She's really smart. She actually was higher in our graduating class than I was. And something that kind of eats at her is that she doesn't understand everything that's going on in the operating room. And she's not the one making all the decisions. She's got a surgeon telling her what to do. And that's something, I mean, it doesn't eat at her a ton, but if you're the type of person who's going to struggle with just taking, maybe not taking orders the rest of your life, but like not being that final decision maker, and you feel like you need to push on and understand everything and be the one making the decisions, then yeah, that drive should push you into medical school. But there's a lot of great perks of being a nurse or being any one of these other things. And that's just kind of my first thing.
Yeah, off of what Shane was saying, like there's plenty of things that a nurse practitioner or PA can do or will be able to do better than a physician, but that is ultimately one of the things that separates it, is that they, the physicians have had a little more schooling, so they have a better understanding, which leads to them kind of being the final decision maker on care for patients on what to do.
That was definitely a big decision for me too. That's just part of the long-term career path. And you want
That was the
to
thing
be
that
thinking things through or being kind of also told what to do.
That was the thing that pushed me. So like I said, I was thinking physical therapy, and I was actually shadowing a physical therapist, and we were dealing with someone with a reconstructed foot, and I actually knew her. She was from Ireland, a really nice lady. And like, it was really cool, like the physical therapist helping her learn how to use like the new muscles that have been constructed. And then he said, hey, you want to take a look at the surgeon's report? I was like, sure. So I pulled out the surgeon's report, and he's talking about all the metacarpal bones and stuff. Like he'd shave one off, place it over there, and reattach this there. And like, I was looking at it, and I was like, this is awesome. And this guy's like making that final decision of how I'm going to reconstruct her foot. And so, like I said, that curiosity, that drive for me of like, I want to know all of it. That's kind of what pushed me into medicine. So there's definitely
Yeah, this is just a general outline, kind of what we talked about. For those who aren't aware, you have to go to medical school after you do a 4-year bachelor's degree, undergrad and college. And then you go to residency and you go into practice. Let's see. First couple years of medical school, you're kind of based on learning more of the organ systems in high detail. It's like physiology, anatomy, pretty much every biochemistry, microbio class you could imagine. Pharmacology, learning about the drugs, how they work, when to use them, what goes wrong when they're not used correctly, things like that. Then the latter years of medical school, you're doing more so clinical experience. You're actually out working in the communities or in the hospitals with physicians, and you're starting to just develop the mindset where you see a patient and you're like, all right, now what decision needs to be made, what do I need to consider, things like that. And then you just kind of slowly evolve with your responsibilities until you get to residency, and then you take everything you've learned, and then you actually start applying it on your own with supervision. That's kind of just the general.
What test did you guys take today? What was it?
respiratory.
Yeah, it's like pathology, when things go wrong with the lung or respiratory system.
So like how long of a test was it?
70 questions.
Yeah, 70 word problem questions.
2 weeks worth of lecture, which
3
is, 3 weeks worth of lecture, which is, let's
I
see.
think it was 27 1 to 2 hour lectures.
So what, about 34 hours of lecture?
Yeah, that's just,
Was on this one again today. So in 2 weeks, 34 hours of lecture that we had to listen to and then study. So that, again, to the point that if you better really like it, for 2 weeks straight, I've been studying nothing but lungs. And then the 2 weeks before that was nothing but kidneys. And if you don't enjoy kidneys enough to study them for 2 weeks straight, med school is going to be a beast for you.
One kind of thing about this track is, you know, if you're interested in going to college, you got to apply, you know, and if you're interested in med school, you have to apply, and then to get to residency, you have to apply. So you spend a lot more time than your peers applying and also taking tests. Like, tests just suck. They do. Like, I mean, like you said, we just had one earlier today, and we're going to have one for the rest of the year. And, you know, the rest of our career, we're going to be taking exams. And no matter how smart you are, how easily stuff comes to you, no one likes taking exams. And that's something that should definitely be in your thought process if you can see yourself doing that for the rest of your career.
you gotta be a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
Be curious, like Shane said, and just be really interested and intrigued in understanding the human body and what goes wrong with it, or how to fix it.
As much as I hate exams, I do like that since you're doing that throughout your career, it kind of forces you to be up to date on what's going on in medicine and science. And, you know, you're like Owen said, lifelong learning, but I think that's a really good way to go through a career is to keep getting better.
To that point of taking tests, like, maybe not forever, but like we're in our mid-20s, and in April or May of this year, we have what's called STEP exam coming up, which is a like huge deal for us.
Licensing.
It's like your ACT for getting a career in medicine.
For example, I'm interested in being a surgeon, and to really be a competitive surgeon, I need to score like a 232, what do you say? To be competitive. That's like 54th percentile, but that's 54th percentile against all medical students. Like you can't get like a bad score. Like it's possible that I take this exam in April, and in June I find out I can't be a surgeon because I didn't score high enough. And that kind of sucks. Like at least I'm interested in other fields where like I could be happy, but if you're like bent on, I want to be a otolaryngologist, that ENT doctor. If you like really want to be an ENT doc, you've got to score like 75th, 80th percentile on that exam. It's like until the age of 26, 27, 20, whatever, you're gonna have that pressure, oh, I gotta perform really well, or else this thing I want isn't even available.
So going back, you said last week or 2 weeks ago was the kidneys. So how often will you go back and revisit? Because that was 2 weeks ago.
That's
Now
what-
you just studied for 2 weeks on the lung, so how does that whole process play out?
That's the STEP exam. So April, STEP is everything we've learned the first 2 years. It's
Yeah.
one, what is it, 8-hour-long test, 7-hour-long?
I think so.
It's a 7-hour-long test we're gonna take, testing everything we've learned in our first 2 years.
Yeah, we have to review all our first year material on our own time, own additional time, so.
So like,
It's fun.
we have different methods, because we have to refresh ourselves. You can say, oh, screw this, I already learned it, but that's gonna come back to bite you in February, March, when you're like, oh crap, I gotta study for this exam in April. So there's different approaches. I do like practice questions. Jack does thousands of flashcards, thousands, not like, it's absurd. But there's different approaches we have to keep the material fresh. Okay.
I don't know if you had said or not, like, if you guys, like, after medical school, like, what do you hope to like specialize in?
What we want to specialize in.
Specialties, sure. So I'm still undecided. I'd say right now, the thing I'm probably most interested in is emergency medicine. But subject to change. Like Shane said, the score we get on the test that we have to take in May, for certain specialties can make or break whether or not you can get into that type of residency, which kind of sucks, but it's kind of the hard reality of the truth.
I've got 5 on the list still. Number 1's internal med and surgery. Those are close. And then like emergency med, family medicine I'm still interested in, and I'd want to specialize in sports medicine so I could be working with athletes. And then ENT actually, that's kind of why I use that example. I think ENT is really cool, but I kind of doubt I'm going to score the 90th percentile on this exam. I'm shooting for like, yeah, I'll be honest, I'm shooting for like 65th percentile on this exam. Yeah, up in April. But if I got, I don't know, if I pull a 90th percentile out of my butt, I might start looking at ENT and, might consider it a little more.
I'm planning on going into surgery and then from there going into more of a trauma focus, just because it works well with military, since that's what you see.
So if you fail a test or you don't score a certain percentile, would you be able to retake it the next year?
If you fail,
If you
you can
fail,
retake
fail,
it,
yes.
but once you get your score, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you don't want to fail.
Yeah,
Very few people fail, like maybe, I don't know,
3%.
yeah, very few people fail, and it's just something that you absolutely do not want to do. So, it's a lot of pressure.
So the setup there, again, this is getting a little past high school. I don't want to stress you guys
I
out
know.
by talking too much about like residencies and stuff. Because right now, really, just like enjoy life, like work hard, but like don't stress about residency. So this exam we're going to take, it can determine what specialty and then also the location. So if I want to work at Boston General Hospital, which is like considered a really good hospital, it's affiliated with Harvard in Boston, so you'll see crazy trauma cases, whatever. Even if I want to do internal med there, which is competitive but not crazy competitive, I need to score like 84th percentile. Like that's the average percentile that gets into their program. If I'm trying to go to, I don't want to trash on a local residency, but if I want to go to